So, a bit like, I'm all jittery. It's all good, it's all good. Okay, amazing. Hello everyone, how are we today? I am bouncing off the walls at the moment because I'm going to start the Elemental series with one of my favourite social disruptors. She's an actor, she's a director, she's a podcaster, she's a pole dance innovator, she's everything and more. I'm so excited for you to join me on the virtual stage. Virtual stage for this air episode. It's Kelechi Okafor.
Aha!
Oh, Kelechi, honestly, it is such a pleasure to have you today. How are you?
Thank you. I'm all right. I'm just, I had a bit of a break from socials for a little bit, and so that's always nice. But then I saw everything that was being talked about regarding Sarah Everard, and I was like, no, I need to jump back in because just need to put some things out there to just remind us that things are slightly different for Black people. So be careful of the advice that you're just jumping with willy-nilly, that sort of vibe. But it felt good to kind of come back with a purpose, do what I need to do and just, keep that distance. If I don't need to be on there, then I don't really want to be on there.
No, I completely get you. Like I've taken... I'm off socials in regards to Instagram and Twitter, but TikTok, I need to learn to get a healthy relationship on TikTok because I'd be watching.
My brother was saying that. Sadiq was saying that. Sadiq was like, sis, if you go on there, you'll start, and before you know it, before you've blinked, 2 hours have passed, and all you've been doing is laughing at different videos. Like, honestly, that's literally it.
Honestly, it's actually ridiculous. And it's so many different sides of TikTok. Like, there's me who'll be on healing TikTok, but then I'll be on like baby TikTok, and then I'll be like on random dancing TikTok. And it's just, there's so much. It's like an encyclopedia to life.
Yeah, and that's what he says. Like, you learn so much from there. There are things that are so obscure that you could just go on there and then you have this random piece of knowledge now for no reason. But he keeps telling me that he's really trying to get me on it properly because he's like, once you get on it, you will love it. Like, you will thrive on there. Especially with the one-liners, he was like, you will thrive on there. But I just can't get my head around the editing. I'm like, the girls are moving too quickly. I'm getting old.
No, honestly, it's so funny that you say that because before I was on TikTok, all my friends were like, Sarah, you need to get on it. Sarah, you need to get on it. I was like, you guys, you know me. If I dance, I will not stop. I will not have any friends. I won't talk to you. I'll be there shuffling with all of the rest of them. Like, it's game over. And then I got onto it and then I realized like, everybody's doing these flips and tricks. I was sending old TikToks to my new friends. They were like, don't worry. It's a part of us now. And it's just like, it just makes me laugh because like, there is such a generational like impact on how TikTok is used, but I also sort of like love it because it's so it celebrates authenticity, celebrates creativity, and it also like revives like different parts of life, whether that could be on music. Like I know that song Bills by Destiny's Child. It is loved on TikTok. Like what TikTok has done for music, it brings old music up again. It highlights new music, and it's just I love a TikTok, but I need to stop using it.
I think I'm gonna get on there for like the tarot vibe because I feel like I'm so exclusive with where I do tarot and the kind of vibe that I bring to it that I just think like these little quick bursts, if I was to do them on TikTok, would really bang. But we'll see. I just know that I'm meant to be on there for something. What it is, I don't quite know because I don't see the point in regurgitating what I've already done on Twitter and Instagram and then going to do it on TikTok. I definitely think it's an opportunity for another aspect of my personality to come forward. And I definitely like doing like sketches and things like that. But all that editing, I don't have time for it.
Well, I will be patiently waiting there, excited for you to go, because like there is such a massive spiritual healing witch talk like community on there, and I definitely think your voice would be so celebrated and needed because like some people like just say things anyhow and they don't realize like how if you need to say these things in a smaller form, you need to come correct because like you might be misinformation. And it's weird because like I love learning from there, but then I also see why so many people are like so it's like, you know how people say like spirituality can be woo-woo sometimes? you can sort of then see it on like spiritual or witch talk, because they just say things anyhow, and they're very like not inclusive in their conversation. So I will happily and patiently be waiting for your information and sprouts of wisdom. I'm excited. But it's amazing that you said tarot, because I'll lead us into our first segment. And to me, Kelechi, you are the Queen of Swords. You are the Queen of Swords. You're teaching, and by your teaching, you're giving your perspective, you're discerning, you're forthright. And I just love that, because like, even though I knew of tarot, I definitely came into it more when I developed listening, like when I started listening to your podcast. And since then, it's been such a eye-opener for me, for reflection, for taking on different perspectives. And I just thought, for the air episode that I'm going to do today, where I'm turning theory into practicality, I need to talk to the Queen of Swords herself, you know.
Gladly. That is high praise. I appreciate it, because it took me quite a while to come to that sort of like realization and really honing in on that Queen of Swords energy. I remember when I was first like learning tarot and coming across a book that described who the Queen of Swords was, and they were like, oh yeah, think about someone like Kris Jenner. I was just like, yuck. But then I thought about it and I said, no, I get it. I see it, because as wayward as I find her to be, I see the genius in a lot of the things that she's done. And that is it. I think that it depends on how you use the Queen of Swords energy. You can use it for good or you can use it for waywardness, you know, but the power of it is always there all of the time. And that woman is incredible when it comes to marketing.
Strategy.
Yeah, strategy is her bag. So if we're talking about air, we're talking about intelligence, we're talking about that kind of cerebral energy, and how one goes about wielding it. Because when we look at the Queen of Swords in the kind of traditional deck, the sky is clear behind her. There are only a few clouds to the side, and I think there's like one lone bird that kind of flies away. Her throne is made of concrete, you know, and even though it's got butterflies, and it's got butterflies carved into the sides and everything else, and you know, you look at that and it's just so clear, like there's richness but beneath her. So it's not someone that's just like stoic, but they've got a lot of direction, but their head is clear. They're above the head, it's clear. So I love that. That.
It's so clear. And one thing that I do like, and I think this is very applicable to Kris Jenner, is the fact that like she has to keep her head above the clouds. And that sort of is like a shark keeping their heads above the water, like seeing the danger that's upon them. And if you think about the media attention and the like sort of Hollywood lifestyle that Kris Jenner is so part of, isn't that her?
That's literally her. Like all the celebrity, all of the Hollywood stuff that happens like kind of below her sort of neckline, really. And all her children just very all over the place. But in terms of getting everybody where they need to be, she's on it.
Exactly. And no, that is honestly such a great start to this conversation on mental intelligence. But my first question for you is, what is your current relationship with your mind?
My current relationship with my mind is one of deep awe. I think that the mind is incredible in that it knows how to protect you. Even when you don't realize that, your mind knows just how much information that you can take at any one time, and will just shut everything else down should it need to. And I say that because recently I had an experience like relating back to trauma that I had as a child. And I was having a conversation with my mum about it, because she had been kind of like looking into things and stuff. And I don't know, I've dealt with everything by myself for so long that just hearing her say something that was really, really proactive and assertive, I burst into tears. And I had to think to myself, oh, where did that come from? Because I've talked about this experience so many times. I've used it as a way of helping other people to work through their trauma. So where did that come from? And then I realized that in order for me to kind of keep going and to be able to help people and to help myself, really, I sort of compartmentalize the deeper hurt and the deeper sense of aloneness in order to continue. And then having access to it suddenly meant that I could deal with it at a time where I'd already processed so many other things. So there was now space to process that. And so I'm just thankful to my mind that it was able to kind of just do that. And then for me to go into that room and within myself and go, okay, now I'm ready to kind of look through what is here, what has been waiting for me, what am I so afraid of like looking into. So that's what I think about the mind. I think that as much as, you know, people commend me for having this really sharp wit and, you know, very incisive sort of like perspective on a lot of things, I can only thank my ancestors that that comes through. I sort of see things and I assume that everybody sees things or perceives things rather the way that I do. But then it's only when I share it that people are like, "Rob, didn't think of it like that." And I'm like, really? I thought that was clear.
Yeah.
So then understanding that rather than going on about how, oh, I can't believe you didn't see it, more so honoring that I might be privy to naturally perceiving things that other people might not clock onto, straight mute it or transpose it in a manner that then makes it accessible to more people, because what the mind can comprehend truly sometimes allows for the spirit to feel fully.
Wow. No, honestly, that's so right, because like I think that's what your podcast, like I'm just so grateful that you started your podcast, because I remember like even talking to you when I first met, the way that you made information digestible, because like sometimes, especially as Black women, like we feel a certain way but we might not have the language to reflect it, and then listening to your podcast was like, I knew I wasn't mad. I knew I was mad. I knew that the information was there, the language was there, but I couldn't actually process it into words. And I think that's like a really great trait to have. So thank you for being able to like express yourself in the way that you do, because it's helped so many people like along the way. So I'm honestly so grateful. But I guess like moving through that, how did it become, well, everyone's different. We can have good days, we can have bad days. But how did you move that and overcome feelings of self-doubt?
I don't think you ever overcome feelings of self-doubt within a kind of, especially within a white supremacist kind of patriarchal society, because the modus operandi is that you should doubt yourself, because we are socialized into believing that there are other people who are more intelligent than we are, who are more experienced, who are more well-versed at whatever it is, at living life than we are. And so without doubt, there'd be no way to sell us things, right? So we all must experience that. You know, that is what we're needed to, that's what's required of us. But then now when we think about racially minoritized people and just generally marginalized people within our community or within the world at large, whether that be because of gender, sexuality, or disabilities, anything like that, we suddenly start seeing that self-doubt is amped up. Like they turn the volume up on it to make it that much harder. But everybody, so I think that what's helped me is understanding that on a very basic level, everybody's dealing with self-doubt, because nobody knows what they're doing. And the panoramic, the panda bear, the panna cotta showed us that a lot of people do not know what they're doing. And in fact, I'm worried about the people who have no doubt, because I'm like, what, how is that working for you? How are you just so sure, you know? Because so I find those people interesting. But then when we take on the layers of societal injustice and what that means for us in terms of self-doubt, then we start realizing that, okay, I need to decide what is I feel like when you are racially minoritized, as well as dealing with other marginalizations, whether it's like gender, sexuality, disabilities, that sort of thing, you then absorb the projections of the society around you that wants you to doubt yourself even more. So I think that one of the things that's really helped me is to kind of be like, what is mine and what is not mine, you know? And there are certain things that are merely projections that have got nothing to do with me, and then there are just my general human kind of experiences that I am exploring. To doubt isn't I don't think it's a bad thing. It's whether you dwell in it, because sometimes we do sometimes think to ourselves, like, can I actually do this? Am I sure that I can do this? And that's part of the adventure. Can I do this? To then go on and do it, you know? So I think that that's great. But all the other things that happen, that we sometimes call imposter syndrome and all of those things, we're not the imposters, you know,
Yeah.
we're not. So it's just about giving back to society, to people, giving back, giving them what's theirs and keeping what's ours. But all of those projections aren't ours.
Amazing. No, that is such a great question, like great answer, because like the way when I think of self-doubt, I do think of it as like a cloud that can like
Mm-hmm.
come into our surface and then come out of it. And like I think I am as a human being, as a baby girl, I'm one of those people that like I sometimes I can think myself into a problem, and
Mm-hmm.
self-doubt has influenced how I move through that problem. So now
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to like be more of a compassionate person to myself, because then I can just see it of not value and just kind of like note it away and like like push it away and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So that is one of the reasons why I asked that question. um I guess as well, like seeing how your sense of discernment and what you place value to has grown over the years. And I just wanted to ask, like, what do you think has contributed to that?
What have I contributed to it?
Yeah, like how have you contributed to your sense of discernment? Like,
Just being present and being okay with the fact that, we make mistakes, or, we feel like they're mistakes, but we go on journeys of learning that allow us to see that we don't want to do the same thing again.
mm-hmm,
Do you know what I mean? So my power of discernment, it grows the deeper that I focus on my spiritual practice, that I focus on tarot, because the power of discernment for me is intuition. It's being able
yes,
to listen, because all along we are guided, all along we are told what might be best for us, but it's usually us going, oh no, 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 no. I think I'm going to do this because, again, that thing that you mentioned about self-doubt, I don't know what's telling me to do that, but I'm not going to do that because I'm going to work on tangible things that I can see and touch. That's what I'm going to do.
yeah,
Only to realize that actually the minutiae of spirituality, of life, are the things that we can't quite grab, that we can't quite grab a hold of. I think about intuition, I think about discernment as that fleeting sort of thought that if you miss
yeah,
it, I mean, it'll come back, but
yeah,
you're just trying to catch it. It's just like little gust of wind, that
yeah.
little breath of air that kind of like passes by, and you just want to catch it at that time because your messages are always there. The kind of, I don't think you should do that. Well, maybe you should call that person. Have you spoken to that person in a while? Those little things will just fly by. But in order to be able to pick up on it when they're there, that requires stillness, and that requires presence, being present within
Yeah.
yourself, not dissociating from the body. You really being present, and for some people it's a physical experience. For me, it usually is a mental one. It's a sort of
Mm.
random idea, and then it's about catching it before it goes.
Amazing. Oh, I love talking to you, honestly. Because the thing is, it's like you're talking, and whilst you're talking, it sets off like, not, I don't want to call them red flags, like red, like,
Yeah,
um,
like light bulbs almost. Like, yeah,
no, yeah, honestly, like light bulbs in my head. And I'm just like, oh,
yeah.
what you said makes sense of that memory. What you said makes sense of that experience. Oh, yeah, that reconfirmed my intuition. And it's just so lovely to hear, because, like, I think you articulate yourself so well. You're able to talk like about three things in one sentence, and I'm just there like, wow. Literally like giving.
Sometimes I have to bring myself back though. On the podcast, I'll go off on a tangent. I'll be like, what was the point? Oh yeah, avocados. And, I've literally got to leave myself breadcrumbs to find my way back to the conversation. But yeah, when I'm in conversation with other people, I do find that there are so many like varying thoughts that come through. But again, I love that channeling doesn't always have to involve cards. Sometimes we're talking and it feels like other messages are sort of coming in at the same time, and seeing how that feeds into the conversations. And sometimes I finish saying something, I'm like, rah, wasn't thinking that when I started the sentence, but it's been open to it.
No, but I love that. Like, it's actually quite similar to how I sort of worked through my podcast, because I can go on tangents, but I go on tangents so much. I had to develop this sound, like a glitch sound, and I'm like, oh, where am I again? And it's just glitches, go back to the point, because I do it so much. But it's actually funny that you say that about learning new information as you're talking. I don't know if like our spirit guides used to dance in the club together. I don't know if they used to party, to kiki or something, because they will let me know when something's going on with you, and I love it. So I'll be on a run, and it's like, oh, you're going on Instagram Live today, and I'm like, I'm not going on Instagram Live. I go on Instagram, and you're talking the things. I'm like, yes.
Because spirit be knowing. That's the thing. But I honestly believe that. I feel like the deeper we enter into like a deeper knowing of each other as people, then there is that telepathy. Like you then do know that, oh, this is gonna happen. Because you're not the first person to say that. People will be like, oh, you crossed my mind, and I picked up my phone and I thought, let me go on Instagram, and there you are on live. Like I would not have known otherwise. I don't have notifications on, I don't have anything on, but I just knew that you were, that I just needed to have my phone, and there you were, and that was the word that I needed. And I think that more serendipitous sort of occurrences like that does kind of prove to us what is possible with energy, and that there's so much more to life than what we see, and just how powerful we are with the mind.
Wow. No, honestly, just wow. No, you're so right. Like, I think, like, because I've like been an OG Say Your Mind listener, I've been like listening to you, and I've loved to see like your growth and like how you are getting your things, but also like how you have like this sense of self that is so applauded. Like I feel like nobody else talks like you do on a podcast, and I love that for you, because it's like you, even if it's like your colorful language, even if it's like your you know how you just go from accent to accent, like all of it.
That is my favorite, because those are literally the characters in my head, so I just play out the characters as I see them.
No, but I love it because it honestly, it just shows so much of you. And I think for some people who didn't have like as much representation of that as they were growing up, it's just like, yes, like do my thing. Like even throughout my whole university experience, I was able just to listen to your podcast, cook my dinner, and then just keep on going about my day, because I had that like confirmation and that forwardness of like looking forward to something on a Monday. But I bring up your podcast to say, like, I'm a favorite of so many episodes, but one of my favorite episodes that you had was the KKK with Kevin Morosky and Kachenga. And you were able to, you guys always talk about life. You always talk about things that have like been magnificent, or the things that have been wayward. But like in that episode, there was a softness to you that like I could hear in your voice that was just so like, it just resonated with me so much. It resonated with me. It's like, look, I've been saying these things, and now I'm tired. And even though you show up week in, week out, whether you're tired, whether you're happy, whether you're whatever emotion you are, that episode just really resonated with me, because it showed me how you can like have so much like, you can show passion in so many different ways.
Yeah. Because I think that that's the thing, like, Black women were really denied that. We're really denied the intricacies and the nuance that comes with just feeling a myriad of emotions, like, and how one, sometimes I think that the English language is not even expansive enough in order to be able to truly convey what we're saying, because we're saying a different kind of passion, but maybe there is a more specific word for even that kind of passion that is being described. But it's just the English language is so thin that it just can't hold that. It can't hold what there is. And that's why I enjoy Yoruba so much, because in Yoruba, there's just there's so much that happens that you can find more specificity in what we are feeling, I think.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, I kind of feel sad for people who maybe they only experience me on Twitter, so they only read my words. So they have no clue that literally I'm just a baby girl. Like, I'm not out. They must see me as this kind of like hardened like institution that's just like, bulldozing everywhere, not understanding that, on the podcast we're kikiing, we cry, we talk up the things, but there's just so much that happens because it's real. But I think that some people are just very scared of admitting that Black women are real. It's easier to idealize Black womanhood and thus to objectify it and strip it of any sort of humanity. But if they were to realize that the reality of being Black and woman, they'd see that there's just so much to it, like, and those are the things that I want to explore by living through it.
Yes, no, that's amazing. Because like I remember the first time you met, and I was like, oh my god, I love Kelechi. You're like, everything's documented, everything's digitized, everything's this, and I was like, amen, because it just shows your like it's like you're healing out loud. It's like you're documenting
Yes.
your journey, and it's just
Yeah.
so beautiful to see, because it doesn't matter if it's on your podcast or if it's on another podcast or if it's on a workshop. Like if people are open to listening, then they're going to see so much, and they're going to be graced by
Yes.
so much information. They're selling themselves short, man. They all need to get
that's literally why I feel sad for them, because I'm just like, there's no how, it's not possible. And that's not even from a narcissistic perspective really, or an egoic perspective. I just truly believe there's no how that you can listen to more than 2 episodes of the podcast and not be like, okay, I get it now, you know. Yeah. Like, because I'm sure, don't they consider like, but why do so many other people like her and I've got this issue? Like, they haven't really considered what that might be. And that's not a case of necessarily liking, it's more of a case of accepting and seeing that this is my reality. And, you know, there are some things that we gel on, and some things you might be like, oh, I don't quite get that. But usually later on, 2 years down the line, 3 months down the line, people usually message me and go, there's something that you said that at the time you said it, I was just like, nah, don't believe that, that's not true. And then literally life started hitting me left, right, center. And then I realized that, yep, actually she was talking the thing. So, you know, it's having patience for those kind of situations. But I truly feel like that is it. I always say like the podcast is a love letter to myself. I'm glad that so many people listen to it. But even if they didn't, it's a way of me, like we say, digitizing and documenting my experience, because I would hate for like 20 years down the line, somebody's trying to teach a little black girl about what it was like during this time, and all they can give her is a flattened, like unfeeling notion of what it meant to be a black woman. I want to know that somebody can find the podcast in like 20 years and laugh. Like, I want them to still be able to laugh at, you know, some of the things. I don't want them to be living through whatever it might be, but I still would like them to be able to kind of laugh and be like, rah, that's what it was like. But this person was telling them, this person told them, you know, I want that.
No, but it's so true, because it's like we've been saying things, and like I just love the fact that you're just so forward and honest and direct, like the Queen of Swords that you are, because it's like it just makes me feel so like validated as well, because like I think if I heard someone like you speaking when I was in my teenage years, I would have still been able just to get through that week easier. And I think that is such a blessing. Like, yes, you are like you said, this is a love letter to yourself, but through that letter to yourself, you're helping people start their own letters, and like that is inspirational. It's generational. So, we thank you. I actually was. Oh, actually, this is another spirit guide moment. So I came in from the day. I think I actually had like nonsense that happened to me in like my environment. Came home, I was made my dinner, went to bed, and I was just in a bad mood. Went to go on YouTube, and I see that Alex Manzi and you are premiering your episode in 3 seconds. I was like, well, I guess spirit wants me to. And like, I went to watch that episode, and I loved the way that you were talking, and I loved your guys' dynamic as well, because like you guys were going through tarot, and he's not that much like, I don't think he does divination, does he? But the way
at all. But yeah, exactly. he brought a very kind of like rational, as he would call it, like a rational approach to it, and it just goes to show how universal the message is. You know, you don't have to be woo woo. You know, the message is just there. The message is the message. You know.
And I appreciate it so much, because you're talking about the Page of Swords and have this idea of being ready to learn, and it gave me like, or what did I say here? It was like, I like this interpretation, because we had this idea that we knew ourselves before this year. We knew ourselves before the pandemic, and then the tower moment of the pandemic told us that no, you're going to sit and you're going to look at yourself, and regardless if you want to or not, you're going to look at yourself. And how that has affected you, I don't know. I can only take account for myself. But it's having this idea of believing who we think we are, understanding that's a little awareness and seeing what we're going to do with that energy. And with pages, for those who aren't listening, it's this idea of potential, it's this idea of like learning on the job kind of energy. And I just think of what, I guess my question is, what advice would you give to people to like push through their potential?
I think the advice would be patience. That's one of the hardest things for me because we're always a page somewhere, and that's what's so beautiful about tarot. Tarot is the perfect depiction of the human experience.
Yes.
In that, whether you could be an empress somewhere, but you're a page somewhere else, right?
Yes.
And only thinking about the spaces where you can be an empress will mean that you're seriously lacking, and then just end up being a fool in other in other realms.
Yes.
But you want to hone in on being a page, because that page eventually grows into the king or the queen of that suit, right? And so I started as a page of swords, and in some areas I am still the page of swords, but there are some areas where I am the queen of swords. But it's only by knowing what it is to be a page that I can effectively step into my responsibility as a queen.
Yes.
And the thing about the Queen of Swords is that that sword is fucking sharp. It's a very, very sharp thing, right? And so you talked earlier about discernment. When you don't know at what point to swipe with your sword and you just do it any which way, you're going to cut others and you're going to cut yourself. So when people talk about brutal honesty, I do think that sometimes that is what they're talking about, a lack of experience with being able to wield a sword, right? And so when you practice as a page constantly, knowing that one day you will be the queen, you will be the king, that is it. That is where the potential is. The potential is in the commitment to the practice, because even when people see you as a queen or a king, you remember that in all things, when it comes to divinity, when it comes to spirit, you'll always be the page. And so that keeps you grounded. So it's in the practice. Potential is about being committed to the practice.
Wow, honestly, it's like every answer I'm like, what? Like, but honestly, it's just so beautiful to hear, because like you're so right. Like I'm a psychology graduate, and I love tarot for the idea of like perspectives and interpretation. You know, it's like I could see a client one day, I could show them the cards, but it depends on how they internalize the cards. It depends on how they see the cards. Are they opening to see the cards? And I just think that's such a beautiful and grounding experience, because it's like there's so many facets, there's so many archetypes, there's so many different personalities, and we're learning what's complementary, what's fitting each other, what's going to dissipate in one environment, what's going to be uplifted in one environment. And I just think it's such a open and honest divination style to use. So honestly, thank you for that answer. Also with like air, I think, like, actually no, before I tell you my answer, I should let you know that I have an Aries stellium and Aquarius stellium. So like
Oh, nice.
I'm just like, I feel
That's
like
a
I'm burning.
wildfire waiting to happen. That's a wildfire.
Literally, I feel like I'm burning all the time. I feel like I'm burning all the time. And like, I bring this up to say, like, air is like transforming your mental activity into strategy, or taking theory into practicality, and just, I guess, this action of taking whatever in your mind out of you, whether that's through communication, whether that's through writing, whether it's through that's thoughts. And I just wanted to ask you, like, has there been any books that have helped you with that process, or is there something that you're currently reading that's helped you with that process?
Oh, I read so many books, but I haven't read a lot recently. But for me, because I'm an Aries sun, right? I'm an Aries sun with a South node in I'm a
Oh,
Libra sun.
I
I'm
was
a
gonna
Libra
say.
sun. Now I was gonna go, I'm an Aries rising, but I was thinking about your stellium. So I'm a Libra sun with a South node in Libra as well. But actually most of my placements are in Scorpio. So, and that's water, and that's in the eighth house. So heavily water, really washing out the undercurrents of the things that people don't want to talk about in society, whether it's spirituality, whether it's sex, sexuality, whether it's death, rebirth, all of the things that are underneath that needs to be washed out so we can see it for what it is. That's where I reside. And I think that I needed the air to help the water move. right? As same way that you need the air to help the fire move, because the passion has to, the passion has to be ignited, and if you don't have that, you have to fan the flame, otherwise it's going to die, right? So you need that, to be there, and the same way that I need air to help my water move. So I say that to say that the books that I read actually are focused on opening up my emotional states, opening up my water, like opening up the space there, because that's really what I feel called to convey and to help myself and others with, understanding emotions, understanding the darker, the more shadow emotions that people would prefer to ignore because everyone's busy doing positive vibes only or good vibes only. But after you've done all of those vibes, what about the rest of the vibes? So in terms of books, it's really been my favorites would be Toni Morrison. It wouldn't even be actual like, quote unquote self-help books or anything like that. It's books like Sula, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. Reading The Bluest Eye was one of the first times that I felt seen within a text. And she wasn't writing that for me, she was just writing, but that helped me a lot. Same as Octavia E. Butler with Wild Seed. That is my favorite book of all time. And reading that, I know it's part of a series, but reading that specific book, it really showed me that Black women have been doing sci-fi, like they've been imagining a world, but they've grounded the world in what we know. Like the story actually starts off in Nigeria and then goes into America. And
amazing.
Just seeing that, like those are the kind of books that have helped me. Those are the kind of books that help me, because imagination is so important in order for emotions to move. And you talk about psychology, like I have a rich kind of like fantasy world, and it's bringing people into that world where Black women are not bottom of the barrel. Black women are not all of the things that you say they are. Like Black women are this, right? And so they've helped cultivate my imaginary sense, because it's also through the process of imagining that we're actually able to do divination more accurately.
No, that is honestly so true. Like I'm actually reading. Have you heard of The Woman Who Ran with the Wolf?
Yeah, Clarissa
Pinkola
Estes.
Estes.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
And like I'm reading the book, and honestly, like it's a big book. Like
yeah. I've got like 3 versions of it in my shelf. I'm looking at them. Yeah.
And like it's probably taken me the process of like a year to like read it, because I've been in and out and stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, for anybody who hasn't read the book, it's a collection of folk tales, and then Clarissa Pinkola Estes, she's a Jungian a Jungian analyst or psychologist, or one of the two.
Yeah.
And then she goes through the book with different she goes through the book with different archetypes, like, and I find it so helpful to understanding the self. Like there was a section about how if we hold on to quote unquote shameful secrets, they're going to poison us from the inside out.
Yep.
And I feel like that is such a beautiful way of describing shame, and such a beautiful way of describing intimacy. And I think every human being, if they should read this book, because it allows them to develop a different part of themselves, to access that divine feminine, to access their introspection and reflection in a way that's just a bit more like interpretive and imaginative, but also like self-assuring, because everybody's going to have a different relationship with a book, like everyone is different. I could read something and you could read something, we could have different experiences of it, but it's the fact that like this book really, really invites you just to like learn about your soul, but in a in stories, it's just so lovely.
That's why I'm looking forward to Jessica Dore's book. I think it's Jessica Dore, Dore. And a psychologist, and she uses tarot, looking at the archetypes within tarot and explaining that with her studies in psychology. I think that is really important. I think that's absolutely genius. So yeah, looking forward to reading that.
Honestly, so you mentioned her in your early stages of the podcast. I signed up to her newsletter. I was like, I love her work. Like I love her work. I think I even pre-ordered the book.
Yeah, the monthly offerings I just think are brilliant. I read it and I'm just like, yo, that is great. That is a great interpretation.
And it's so wonderful how she's able to pick from different aspects of history, life,
Yes.
identity, like so many different things. It's literally like she's just going like this, and then she puts it in like an offering, and I'm just like, wow. Honestly, like I definitely need to get that book, because even as a psychologist as well, like I feel like it's very it's her offerings and like learning about the imaginative space, learning about like divination is giving the client, the reader, the person, the tools to understand themselves. So it's not like, oh, you just need to come see me in therapy once a week. You can be doing things outside of that space and also nurture your environment. So yeah, that was amazing. Oh, and honestly, like Jessica Dore is the best. So I should take you on to our next segment, and that is tarot talks. And I'm going to be giving you a tarot reading, which
Let's
is
go for it.
I'm really excited.
Go for it.
And so I have got exclusives today. Tarot community, Say Your Mind community, everyone who listens to this. I've got exclusives. Oh, I've got one upside down. I've got both of Kelechi's exclusive, let me say exclusive, oracle decks and affirmation cards. So the first one is The Spiritual Seasoning for the Soul by Kelechi, and the other one is the Say Your Mind affirmation cards. And I'm so excited today because I think I'm going to go in with the oracle cards, get some interpretation from Spirit, using my Rider-Waite deck, and then we're going to finish with the affirmation. But
cool.
I feel pulled to go elsewhere, I pulled to go elsewhere. So I'm going to shuffle these cards. Can you tell me when to stop? Oh, can you tell me when to stop, please?
Okay.
Like, thank you so much.
Stop.
Lovely. Can you pick a number between 1 to 3?
2.
Okay. All right. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So we actually got 31 and 32.
Nice.
And the first one that we got was Your happiness should not depend on things that haven't happened yet. And the next one is Be the reason that somebody smiles today. And that's like, I just think that's so warming to hear, because like, how much have I smiled throughout this whole episode? I'm literally gassed, like, from when I nearly rugby tackled you.
What a wonderful day.
No, like, actually, side note, do you know what's so funny? I remember listening to an episode, or maybe you're on Instagram story and you're just talking about like, are people coming up to you, they can smile at you. I think, you know, you were going to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you were saying people coming up to you and everyone chatting to you, and yeah, it's okay, but like one day someone can come up to you and they might not be okay. And I just remember thinking, what was she thinking when I
But you know, like vibes are so important. Like your vibes is just clear, isn't it? Like you always kind of sense the ones who are wayward. But yeah, I say that, touch wood, I'm yet to meet somebody that is so sure that they don't like me, because really, once they see you in person, and Oloni has said it before, everyone can talk it up online. The moment that they see you, they get starstruck. They really do. These ones that swore that they hate your guts, the moment they see you, it's just like, can I get a picture? Yeah, well, there you go, isn't it?
No, but it's so true. And I just think that like, I'm proud of myself for Baby to orchestrate this thing, but I'm also proud of you for how much you have grown since that moment as well, because like I said, I was original Say Your Mind listener, like seeing you get your things is my love language. Like, honestly, the way that I saw, like, when you were at F1 with your family, I was just showing people, I was like, oh my God, Kelechi's there, Kelechi. You know, because it's
we've come a long way. I feel like that's why, to me, like the Say Your Mind community is literally a community. I don't really look at people like followers, fans. I think that that's ridiculous. Like, to me, we are a community. So, you know, even in how I talk on the podcast, I'm talking as if I'm talking to people that are already on it. Like, we're already on it, you know, and then we're just talking with each other, just getting on with it. This kind of sort of like introductory, or this kind of hierarchical sort of vibe, I don't like it, because I just think who's that serving? That's ridiculous. So yeah, I want that. I want that when I bump into people that listen to the podcast, which is what happens all of the time. When I bump into people that listen to the podcast, we just jump into conversation. There is no sort of like, oh, and you know, we're just in it. We're just in it. They're like, oh yeah, and then last week when this happened, I love it because it's just like having friends everywhere. Having friends everywhere that already know what you're going to say. It's great.
No, it's honestly true. Like, even I remember there was one point where on your story you put a picture up with you and Marcella Kroll, and that was so beautiful to see, because from listening to you using her oracle cards to then being able to see you in person, I wasn't even in the conversation, but like I was happy for that conversation happening, and like it's just lovely, because I think the reason that somebody smiles today really like resonates with me, because it just shows you like there's so many happy moments in life, and just enrich them, like nurture them, like love them up. And I think like that's one thing that I can say with my chest. I can't hide my feelings, so if I'm excited, everyone will see it. Everyone's gonna see
that is the great thing. That is the great thing. Like, there's so much happiness in every moment, even the things that we think are mundane, because they say that I can't remember how the saying goes, but it's something like, what do you do when you before spiritual enlightenment? Chop wood, carry water. What do you do after spiritual enlightenment? Chop wood, carry water. The practice never changes. So the practice of gratitude will never change, even if your external circumstances become, you know, grander. Like, even if they become more grand, like the daily practice should always remain the same.
You know what? That even what you just said now reconfirms the second message, because it's like your happiness shouldn't depend on things that haven't happened yet. Like, yes, things can get grander. Yes, external things can change. Even there's other things can change. But at the end of the day, the practice doesn't stop. So why don't compete with an idea or perception, or that something is going to be bigger to you if it comes in a different form. I was having a reading with someone recently, and it was like talking about how like you might be getting something, but it might not be in the form that you so wanted it, or like expected it, and it's still a present to you, it's still a gift to you, and how you mold it and shape it is going to be influenced by your energy. So like be grateful for the experience and use it to your like capability, because we're all divine.
And I think that's sometimes what I think is interesting when we look at the way that life can be. Sometimes we ask God for cake, like we ask spirit for cake and we literally get cake. Sometimes we ask spirit for cake and we get the ingredients, and so then we get pissed off because it's just like, oh, so now you're just expecting me to make it by myself, hey? Or sometimes people don't even realize that they've got the ingredients. But the process of being asked to make it for yourself is because there is a sense of fulfillment that comes from you putting the pieces together rather than it just being given to you. And also, when you understand what it takes to make the cake, you appreciate it so much more when you're going about slicing it, as opposed to, oh, well, thanks, spirit, I'm just going to stuff this in my face, or I'm just going to give it away. Like, you have a thorough understanding. And also, if you can do that, you know how to replicate it. If you're given the parts to it, you know how to replicate it again. And that's more important. In terms of having a happiness or a joy that's sustainable, you have to know the moving parts of it.
Oh yeah, it's like there is joy in the work, there's joy in the process, and like you said, if you can do the process, then you can do it again. You can add tweaks, you can add, allow a bit of zhuzh, you can add a little bit of this, you can give it to someone, you can remold it and share it to other people. Like, there's so many benefits to making the process instead of just getting the cake, Oh, amazing. Okay, I'm gonna ask spirit, higher power, for any more cards that sort of gives us more insight into this reading. Okay, oh, that one they jumped out. Am I getting this one? Oh, okay, right. So far we've got the Page of Swords, the Ace of Pentacles, and the Ace of Cups. All of the cards are actually reversed, but we also have the Moon reversed as well at the back of the deck. And the way that I'm sort of understanding this, like, spread, is that the Moon is merging because we're going into like a shadowy period. Like, we're currently in Mercury retrograde. Whether that you're in this maybe the illusions, fear, the sort of intersections of like discomfort you've been feeling it in the air. Maybe you haven't feeling it. That's calm, but it's understanding that you have a sense of self within it. Like the Page of Swords is that potential, that understanding, that motivation to keep it pushing, learning on the job, but being proactive with the lessons that they're being made with. Like I know sometimes people interpret the Page of Swords as like a gossipy individual and like someone who likes to be in other people's business, but because I see like there's only aces around, I think it's just talking about their like their potential and their craft. Like the Ace of Pentacles and the Ace of Cups, like they're very complementary energies, and I feel like the Ace of Pentacles and the Ace of Cups is asking to intertwine those elements to create something new, or to put your theory into something new. Like the Ace of Cups is to do with love and abundance, but the Pentacles is more to do with tangible. Well, it is still love and abundance. They're both very passive, inner, like knowing cards. But I feel like the Ace of Pentacles maybe asks you to treat your body, treat your space, treat your environment with that attitude, and the Ace of Cups is asking to try your inner space with that attitude. And what are you creating amongst that? Okay. Spirit, actually, you know what? I'm going to use a new deck. I got this deck recently. It's called the Vice Versa Tarot.
Leona Nicole Black loves that deck. She loves that deck.
It's so cool.
I've always seen it. Whenever I manage to catch her readings, she loves that deck so much.
Spirit, higher power, universe, please can I have a card for clarification? Okay, so we've got the Nine of Wands for clarification, and it's come up in this element.
Cool.
So I'm thinking, like, actually, what do you think when you see this card?
I'm trying to see, is she a ballerina?
I feel like she's a ballerina, but she's in a. To be fair, her foot is definitely in a ballerina position, but she's wearing like a white long dress, and she's in a cave.
Yeah, I think to me she's emerging from the cave, right? And so looking at the juxtaposition between what she's wearing and where she is, it's about going into realms that feel like male dominated, that feel very brutal, but keeping what it is that keeps you pure, quote unquote. And emerging from a space, like she's emerging from that cave, as far as I can see, emerging with grace, emerging with poise, wearing white. I can't see whether she's stained from it. So some people are able to go into the darkness and come out and be able to face this big man that's waiting waiting. And then there seems like there's this barricade of the other wands in her way. It's that idea of like, even if I get that element of David and Goliath. Like, even if you are looking at people and they appear bigger than you in terms of obstacles or people stopping you from getting the things that you want to, or the things that you want to achieve, look at the fact that the head is bandaged. You have more cerebral power than these people do. They've only got brute force. So using the spiritual purity is a word that I want to go for, but basically using the fact that you've been spiritually cleansing over and over again, even when you've been in the darkest places, it means that you have an intellectual advantage over those that might be blocking your way from getting the things that the Ace of Pentacles, the Ace of Cups, they can't stop you.
Oh my goodness, yes. And that actually goes back to the moon card, because the moon, everyone shadows into other shadows. So it's best to look after your own. And you might be scared of your quote unquote fears, but your instinct lies there, your intuition lies there. It's that whole idea of, are you going to rely on your tame self, or are you going to rely on your wolf self? Even back to the book of, know, the woman who ran with the wolves, because it's this raw, intimate power that can people can like sometimes see that as if you want to rely on authoritative, I can't say the word, the authoritativeness, if that's a word, of
Yeah.
life, you might want to shy away from that power. But it's understanding that, like, that raw, intimate instinct that that there's light there, and that light can help with the intellectual understanding of the Page of Swords to sort of slice away from information. Like, you might not be able to see your power, but your ancestors do, and believing in the fact that you can walk with them whilst you go to your next step. Because I think with Ace of Pentacles and Ace of Cups, again, they're like things that you mold, things that you create, things that you like add something to, and like it seems like you're doing something with that. But the David and Goliath might, the story of that might intimidate you, so but it's just asking yourself to invite yourself into that moment. Like, what can you create within? What can you create from the darkness? Wow. I
Love
think
it.
I'm gonna go in with the affirmation card decks.
Yes.
So, spirit, higher power, universe, what do you say from the... Oh, one just popped out. Okay. Pick a number between 2 to 3. I mean 1 to 3, sorry.
3.
Amazing. Okay, so the first card that just popped out said, people move mad, so I move expensive. Just because people move mad doesn't mean you have to. As tempting as it may be to move madder, remember that your value is immense and that is your power. The next one was, the universe hands out straws on my behalf. Sometimes when people hurt us, we are tempted to give them a straw and instruct them on what to do with it. We have to trust that our assignment is to do good and look cute in one way or another. The universe will balance out the actions of others. The next one is, I attract people with short lips and short throats. We have to intentionally ward off the audacious people who use their long lips and throats to spout things that could mess with our energies. The universe will honor our discernment, again, discernment, by aligning us with people who are better suited to us.
Yes.
And the last one, and this is honestly, all of these cards were so fitting for this reading. I am shining my eyes well to see all my opportunities. When we focus solely on the few things that we specifically want, we might end up missing out on the multitude of things that could make our journey easier. Or more, shine your eyes and see your blessings.
Yes. That's what I thought about when you mentioned the aces. The aces to me are always about opportunity. So there's opportunity there. Like, you're given the first card, you're given the first cup. Now you need to go and get the other 9. So, figure it out. So I love that don't get distracted by all the higgy haga. Go and get the other 9 of your things. Yeah.
Oh, honestly, it's just so, I just love that for tarot. Like, I love how all things mold world with each other.
Yes.
Like, we started off with saying how, like, be the reason that someone smiles today. Your happiness should not depend on things that haven't happened yet. And I think, like, sometimes people can get distracted by what they're lost, but then equally it's like, what are you creating? What's going to come in replace of that? If you're solely focused on those things that are coming your way, you're not really going to care about the things that have departed you, because really they weren't for you. And I think, like, understanding that life is a journey, life is experience, and being able to, like, put your energy and happiness and motivation into these things are just going to reap you more rewards, whether it's internally or externally. So I'm really happy with that.
I love that. And I think that sometimes it's not even things that we've lost. Sometimes we haven't even got them. Like, they weren't ours to lose in the first place because we never got them. So it's like letting go of the idea of what we perceive to be the thing that will be our success or bring us the fulfillment, whether material or spiritual or emotional abundance, being able to divorce ourselves of what that means. And I think that that's been one of my biggest journeys, like recalibrating what it means to be successful. If they were to do away with every establishment that signifies what it means to be successful, whether it's the Academy Awards or this or that, how would you then judge what it is to be successful? That would then take it into the internal space, like we say, the moon card in reverse, right? We'll take it into that space, and suddenly you realize that actually success is an inside job. Joy is an inside job. It's not something that you perform for other people, but we see, like Michaela Cole said, like, people do take visibility to be something that they think is synonymous with success, where for some people it might be a stepping back. That's part of it for you.
Yeah, no, honestly, that you said all the things. Like, and I just love that because like it's just made me feel just really aware of what's coming, what's going, what's up, and all the things. And I don't even know what to say after that. Like I feel like I'm literally like,
no, you read
yeah,
it. You read the things. You read the things. It's a word. It's an absolute
thank
word. It
you.
really is.
Oh my goodness. No, well, yeah, no, that is literally a thing. Like I'm literally like, I feel
You did the work, innit? That's what I love when you get a good tarot reading, when you get a good channeling, you're like, whoo, wow, really? Thanks, spirit. Wow.
honestly, thank you,
Yeah,
Spirit. Thank
yeah,
you,
yeah,
Spirit.
yeah.
Oh, amazing. Well, this takes us to our last segment, which is the direct message. And the direct message is where we give read. I keep on saying readers, you give listeners a little take-home message from the episode. I'd like to start. I'll start
Okay.
the take-home message. And it's actually back from the tarot reading. You said something about recalibrating
Mm-hmm.
success, and it actually reminds me of this other book. And I think I've mentioned it quite a few times on the podcast. The The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark
Yes.
Martin. That
Yeah.
book really, really made me understand how we live life by metric. And my metric might
Mm-hmm.
look different to you. My metric might look different to you, but like understand that your metric might even adapt and change as you do. And it's
Mm.
being patient and compassionate with those changes because it's not going to it's not everything that you want is going to happen overnight, and
Mm.
it's just being patient and compassionate with yourself to understand, like being to understand what the changes are. It's like the
Mm.
first oracle card said, your happiness should not depend on things that haven't happened yet. And
Mm-hmm.
like for me, that was a really big lesson in like productivity, because I think I was a bit of a workaholic before I sort of gave myself to rest. And
Mm-hmm.
one advice that I would give with listeners who are trying to change their state of happiness is do a gratitude list every day in the morning of just three
Mm-hmm.
things. Because if you can understand that your contentness and your happiness comes from within, and you can
Mm-hmm.
change your idea of happiness, that means that other things can only add on to what you've already mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's my direct message. And yeah, believe in yourself because ancestors do.
Yes, yes, that is a word. Believe in yourself because ancestors do. Like they all, I think that feeds nicely into what I would say is my direct message. Like even when, because we talked about self-doubt earlier, even when you doubt yourself, remember that your ancestors have every belief in you, that they believe that you can do this. In fact, they know that you can do this because they've seen numerous timelines where you have achieved this very quest that you're set upon. And the whole point of this experience is that they should help guide you through your own power of discernment as well. So you end up in the optimal timeline so you can achieve the things that you said that you want to do while you're here. So, it's having that belief. It's having that belief that even if the outward world gives us that 9 of Wands energy where it's like, you shall not pass, remember that the forces that ride with you are able to get under, over, through anything. And they'll make it possible for you to almost not embody physical matter so that you can get through those things too. So what other people have said is impossible only applies to them. It doesn't apply to you. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. And, I think that was, from what you said, a reminder to me as well. And it's doing that. It's not allowing yourself to be tamed by a society that's actually rabid in and of itself, like doing what you feel is best for you, come what may.
Amen. Kelechi, this has been amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Honestly, this has been such a lovely start to the Elemental series. I'm so
Yes.
happy and I'm so grateful that you were able to share your time with us. Like, it's just
My pleasure.
honestly been great. If you don't know about Kelechi already, you need to check out her podcast, guys. You need to check out her podcast. It's called Say Your Mind. You can find it on all like podcast streaming platforms. And you know what? Even do you know what I do sometimes? I even go on your YouTube when you used to provide visuals.
I'm thinking slowly, I might go back to a visual thing. That's what I've been, like we talked about it earlier with TikTok and stuff. I do feel like I'm meant to move on to a digital platform. A visual platform next, but that would require a bit of work because I want it to have captions. I want it to look cute, so it's just thinking about those things. But I do actually feel like I'm coming back with a visual thing, just don't know when, but I think that it's something visual, something to do with tarot. Because some of my faves, I can see that they're stepping back as well. And while I'm very, very busy, it is possible for me, maybe apart from my Patreon, to just do a little extra thing that's video-wise as well. But let's see. Who knows?
I know. Like, I'm just like internally screaming because, like, as I said, like for the 8th time this episode, I'm a sale. So I'm a veterinarian. Like, I'm literally.
Yeah, you are.
From the get-go.
And that's why I was just like, Sarah's doing a podcast, of course I'm coming through, because you're the OG listener. Got to honor that always and forever.
Thank you so much. Like, honestly, it's been so great. Like, I've enjoyed this episode so much, and I've got I'm gonna re-listen to this so many times before it even releases out. Like morning meditation at my ancestors' table. Like, yeah. What are your socials, Kelechi? Is it Kelechi Okafor on your Twitter and Instagram, or which?
Yeah, Kelechi Okafor or at Say Your Mind Pod. So you find me there. Well, probably more on Kelechi Okafor if it's Twitter and Instagram. That's where you'll find me mainly. Yeah.
Amazing. And yeah, guys, this is the end of our episode. I'd like to say thank you for listening. I've been your host, Sarah DM, also known as DMsToolkit. You can find me on DM.Talks or DM.Seerah, SEERAH. And yeah, I am honestly so gassed and so happy that we could only leave on a high note. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
We shall see you guys later.